into the future where the glass is half full and you'll need new glasses, where you'll be jumping from conclusions.
The past is annulled and a new future is born.
Never before in history has so much meant so little to so many. AD on the radio.
So here you are in November. Thanksgiving is a week from this coming Thursday. A lot of people trying to figure out how they're going to go over the river and through the woods to grandmother's house to enjoy yummy turkey and palpable tension between them and the relatives that they secretly despise but put up with twice a year. People are making travel plans. And by the way, I'm sure your family's lovely. I'm sure you get along with everybody great. But the idea of travel, that stress, it just adds to, it just adds to the sense of being overwhelmed that a lot of people have at the moment. And people feel especially overwhelmed just because there's a giant question mark hanging over our future. But I offer you this little piece of advice. If you are traveling for Thanksgiving or any holiday, apparently a former TSA agent has advised us that if we're traveling by plane for the holidays, you want to get through the whole process easier, don't wear cargo pants to the airport. You'll get through airport security faster. And also, it's no longer 2002. But as people make their travel plans to see relatives near, far, and wide, they're also sort of making plans about how they're going to travel through the next 4 years. People are trying to figure things out. People are trying to figure out the right way to treat those around them. People are trying to figure out the right way to go through life. How am I going to navigate this new and decidedly uncertain and possibly very choppy terrain that America and indeed the world is in since the election? I'm going to offer you a little bit of help on that. First, I'm going to explain to you how there's a lie about who handed Trump this election being perpetuated and why it's so important for all of us that you don't fall for it. I don't know if you read them at all. I don't know if after it was over and done with, you were just like, I wash my hands of this whole process. But the New York Times released their exit polls. Now, bear in mind that this is the New York Times. As news sources go, you kind of don't get more liberal than this. But there's this idea that old rich white guys elected Donald Trump. There's this idea that this was an election decided by the obscenely wealthy, pasty, coming up on retirement white guys that travel mainly via monogram, gold-plated, diamond-encrusted Learjet, eating extinct dodo steak seasoned with salt distilled from the tears and sweat of the poor on their way to a gala with the international banking community where they will don goat leggings and hunt people below the poverty line for sport. There's this idea that they gave Trump the election, and that's just absolutely untrue, by the way. The Rebel Media folks did a nice piece on this, and that's worth checking out. But have a look at this. Have a listen to this. Now, Hillary won the women's vote, 54 to 42%. But you know what's interesting about that? You know how much better Hillary did with women than Obama? 1%. Just the 1%. Now, let's be crystal clear on this. Trump won the white vote, 58 to 37. And that paints a picture of Trump running a campaign that caters to white people. But that's only 1% up on what Mitt Romney got. Not really all that different from what's happened historically in the past. The white vote was not enough for Trump to win. If the white vote was all Donald would have had, he would have been dead in the water. Which means the tip of the iceberg that put Donald over the top came from minorities. Trump had 8% of the black vote, which is not a massive number by any stretch of the imagination. But when you compare it with 1% in the last election, that's a jump of 7% gain in black voters for Republicans, which is huge and enough to carry states like Florida and Ohio, which Trump did. Trump took 29% of the Hispanic and Latino vote. Again, in no way, shape, or form beating the Democrats, but up by 8% from the last election. Another big gain over what Romney did. Trump took 29% of the Asian vote, a rise of 11%. And if you break it out by age, Trump had a 5% gain in 18 to 34-year-olds. Now, these are facts and figures, and let's just get through them so we can get to our point. But the most illuminating, interesting, fascinating jump that Trump had to me was in the income bracket. People making less than $30,000 a year. people making less than 30 grand a year, according to the New York Times, really rallied around Trump. Trump was up 16% over Romney. Now, you saw how close this was. And when you look at these numbers, the presidency was handed to Trump by minorities, the poor, and the young. Now, why do I bring this all up? It's not gotcha. It's not I told you so. It's not I was right and you were wrong. It's to make a point. The election has been all about simple answers that you can fit on a bumper sticker, simple answers to complex problems. And it's important we don't fall for that. Why? And how is your humanity tied up in this? We'll discuss it next.
Real radio. Real radio. Real radio. Real radio. 104.1.
Where the left and right come together for fundamental truths. AD on the radio, on Twitter at ADSXE.
So as we were saying before, there's this idea that old rich white guys handed Donald Trump the election. And when you look at the exit poll data supplied by the New York Times, possibly the most liberal of all news sources, you just see that that's absolutely untrue. Now, did Trump have the white vote? Yeah, for sure. But Hillary did not surge in the categories and demos that people expected her to surge in. Trump won the white vote. But it wasn't like a massive change, only up 1% from what Mitt Romney got a few years back. Trump had 8% of the black vote. Big jump up, 7%. Trump took 29% of the Hispanic and Latino vote, again, up 8% from the Republicans in the last election. And like I said, the most illuminating, fascinating piece of information we have about the jump in support that the Republicans had once Trump started being their guy comes from income bracket. People that make less than $30,000 a year, Trump was up over 16% compared to Romney 4 years ago. Now, why do we bring this up? Because there's this prevailing narrative that Trump was handed the election by old rich white guys, like we said. And when you break out these numbers, when you look at the fact that, this was a close one, all those swing states were really, really tight. That tip of the iceberg that put Trump over the top. When you look at it this way, it kind of means Trump was handed the election by minorities, the poor, and the young. And I bring this up because, well, not because it's a gotcha moment, not because it's an I told you so, not because I was right and you were wrong, and I want to crow about it. Although I have to admit, there's a certain amount of crowing that's going on in the building about being right and wrong. Not you and me. But ever since it came down to Trump and Clinton, you and I have been talking about this. We've been saying it's really anyone's race. And everybody I work with, right, left, up, down, side to side, whatever. They're all like, you're an idiot. That's ridiculous. Hillary's going to win. I was like, I don't think so. I don't think that's true. And the reason I don't think that's true is because I listen to the people that listen to this show. Listen to how they're feeling. Listen to why they're feeling it. I had one friend who voted for Trump, and she was like, I kind of didn't talk about it a lot because I was ridiculed for it. This person's not a racist or a white supremacist or any of the things that are negatively associated with Trump, but she'd made her choice. She wanted to vote for Trump, and she did not want to be painted with a brush. She said, anytime you mentioned voting for Trump, you were just made to feel like an idiot. So I kept my mouth shut. And I listened to you, and I listened to people like that. And the media, not so much on the listening. The people that run the polls, they should all be on the unemployment line at the moment. Just because they were so unbelievably wrong for so unbelievably long. So there is a certain amount of I was right and you were wrong crowing in that situation. When I said it was anyone's race for the last, 6 months or so, turns out it really was anyone's race. And it was a hair's breadth that this election was decided on in those swing states. So close. But I bring all this up to make a point. This election, and the way it's been dumbed down, has been all about simple answers to very complex questions, bite-sized pieces of information that fit on a meme or a bumper sticker or a button or a t-shirt. And right now, there's a prevailing narrative of racism, anti-Semitism. People are being divided into an us and them situation by the media again, and even more fervently than they were before the election. Incendiary headlines about left-wing protesters and right-wing hate and racism and hate and fear and fear and hate and hate. You know what those things are good for? They're really, really good for business, really good for clicks, really good for sales, really good for ad revenue. Every major news source is guilty of it. I can't believe that I'm bringing this up, but what the mainstream media doesn't want you to know, can't believe I just said that. But the truth of the matter is, I bring up the facts and the figures about who handed Trump the election to make a point. It's easy to go, rich white men voted in their guy, and it gives people a battle cry, and it gives simple people a simple narrative that helps them make sense of an extremely weird and confusing time. And that's understandable. The unthinkable happened. And that's okay. And people need whatever they have, and people need whatever they can put their hands around at the moment to cope and try and figure things out as a giant question mark lays over our next 4 years. But that simple narrative, that fear, 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 hate, 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 right, 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 wrong, 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 something is either black or white, doesn't allow much room for humanity, doesn't allow much room for compassion, doesn't allow much room for understanding your fellow human being. It allows people to be painted as literally black and literally white, right and wrong, good and evil, fair and unfair. And you are negating a person when you do that. You're being negated when someone does that to you. And if you're allowing that to happen to you, you're feeding into the problem of dehumanizing your fellow human being when you paint with broad strokes. You're making yourself a tool of the system. Not you, necessarily, people. But people are being made tools of the system. A system that relies on you. Relies on you to stop thinking for yourself in order to generate ad revenue. And you know what? You're not being fair to your fellow human by doing that. So be better. Be the best you can be. Go seek people out that are different, that think differently, that vote differently, and make a friend. Damn it, light makes life more interesting.
You're waiting to get washed away.
It's okay to disagree. It's not okay to be understimulated.
Well, I was just thinking that...
This is KPRC 950.
Don't get the blues, get all the news. We mean all of you guys out there in Radio Land. All aboard!
He's back. AD on the radio.
Give it up, yeah. Give it up, yeah. Bring this on, come on, come on.
So if you're just joining us, he said, hacking up a lung. You caught that? You caught that head cold chest infection thing that's been going around, making the rounds? Is unpleasant to say the least. But just to wrap things up, we've been talking, if you're just joining us, about how if you break out the data, New York Times exit polling stuff, what you kind of see is that, look, this election was a close one, right down to the wire. 50-50, pretty much. And in the swing states, it was just a hair's breadth of a percent that put Trump over the top. The Ohios, the Floridas. So close. Too close to call in a lot of cases. And it would appear from the jumps that Donald Trump took compared to what Romney was doing for the Republicans 4 years ago. The people that handed Trump the election, that little fraction, that straw that broke the camel's back, whatever metaphor you want to apply to it, the people that handed Donald Trump the election were minorities, the poor, and the young. That's where he did better than his predecessor, Mitt Romney. And we're being divided. We're being divided. It's happening all over again. I think so many people saw there was such good money in dividing Americans in the run up to the election. They're like, well, we're going to ride this out as long as we can. Why? Well, like I said, these incendiary headlines of hate, these incendiary headlines of people protesting and the hate crimes that they're protesting against and all of the things that we are being absolutely ensconced by post-election, they make for really, really good business. They generate clicks and ad revenue and all the things that the money machine of the media got addicted to in the run-up to this election. They're like, we're making more money than ever before, and we're doing it by scaring people, and don't know how much longer we got of that, so let's just go for broke. So then there's you in comparison to all this, one little tiny person, compared to this massive media machine, compared to angry mobs on both sides of the fence, compared to the political machine that has spewed out the result it has in this election. And you feel so small in the face of it all. And you don't have to, because I want you to remember this. Just by being you have so much power. Don't give it up. Don't give it up to politicians and media. Don't give it up to those who would seek to divide us and profit from that divide. I know you. I know you think sometimes that you're just one person, and what can you really do in the face of it all, and what difference does it make in the world? You're just one person, and the entire world is in this weird, fractured, divided, mean, hateful, spiteful place, and what can you really do about it? Well, every great dream begins with a dreamer. Always remember, you have within you the strength, the patience, and the passion to reach the stars and change the world. Harriet Tubman. And if you're looking for a good place to start your journey to being a more human person, I would advise hanging out with a dog. You want to reveal the best parts of your humanity? Hang out with a dog.
And you can't appreciate how awesome a dog is as a kid. You can only do it as an adult. As a kid, there's like no frame of reference. It's like you're a kid. Your whole life is awesome. It's awesome, right? You ever think about being a kid? You had no money, you had no ID, no cell phone, no nothing. No keys to the house. You just ran outside into the woods. You weren't scared of nothing. I challenge you to do that as an adult. All your ID, all your credit card, just run out of the house, no phone. Turn the corner where you can't see your house and not have a full-on panic attack like, oh my God, what if something happens to me? I'll get locked up, no one will know who I am. What if I twist my ankle? Your whole life is awesome as a kid, right? You show up, no money, you just get stuff, grilled cheese, movie tickets, right? Why wouldn't a dog be awesome? Everything is awesome. It's not till you're an adult that you appreciate it, right? Your dreams start dying, somebody cheats on you, right? Bankers up your 401k, and then you come home, that dog's looking at you like, dude, you're awesome. It's like, no, dude, you are awesome. Oh, it's the greatest thing ever. Absolutely. It's unreal.
All right, then, Funkhouser, perhaps we should take a look at the events of today. It's been a while since we did the news. Let's see what's going on in the world.
Yes, the newspaper is covered in dust. What is this? What is this thing? This newspaper. Hundreds of millions of users of Adult Friend Finder and related porn sites may have had their personal information compromised. Whoops.
Among those hundreds of millions, at least 6 or 7 women. Now, if you'll excuse me, say all our male listeners, I gotta go smash my wife's computer, laptop, phone, and tablet. It's the darndest thing, honey. I just woke up this morning, decided we didn't need internet. I'm trying to take us back to a simpler time. Go on.
Russian officials admit they were in contact with Donald Trump's campaign during the election.
I would prefer that if you did it in the voice.
Russian officials admit they were in contact with Mr. President Trump's campaign during election.
First Melania, now Putin? Trump has a thing for topless foreigners. Trump and Vladimir. Simple deal. In exchange for Putin helping him win the election, Trump would send him hair. He's like, no, it's not like real hair, but it'll work. It'll sort you right out. It's better than what you got going on now. Trust me. really, really terrific. Great hair.
I
Good
can't
hair.
wait till they're horseback
Getting
riding
the best hair to Putin.
into the sunset together.
Yeah, go on.
Are you sitting down?
I am.
Omarosa from The Apprentice and former WWE executive Linda McMahon may get cabinet positions.
People laugh, but I think they'd be perfect for one post. Secretary of Dear Jesus God, what have we done? By the way, the chit chat earlier about.
I mean,
how,
dude, it's gonna make me watch C-SPAN. At least that's gonna happen now. It'll give
See,
me a reason
you're
to
playing
tune
it.
in.
I can't believe I'm saying this, but what the mainstream media doesn't want you to know. I mean, what the mainstream media doesn't want you to know, like, it's really good for business. And it's just like this, it's really good for business. And look, when I say that minorities handed Trump the election, they were the straw that broke the camel's back. They were the tip of the iceberg. They were whatever you want to call it that put him over the top. I am not in any way, shape, or form excusing decisions that Donald Trump may or may not make in the coming couple of months. Hear me on this one. I'm not picking a side. I'm just saying, don't let yourselves be divided. Don't misconstrue the little chit chat we had earlier as approval for giving Omarosa any real power in our government. Go on.
A new study shows that the way we discipline our kids has changed.
Like in previous generations, when a kid cursed at his parents or her parents, the parents would spank them. And now when a kid curses at their parents, they get a trophy and reminded of how unbelievably special and precocious they are. Wow, I wasn't using that word until I was at least twice your age. Good for you.
Great
You ever curse
word.
out your parents, Funkhouser?
Great word. Ever? No. You're not supposed to do that. Isn't that wrong?
I did.
You did?
Never forget it. My parents weren't spanking parents. However, it was probably the one time in my life I remember being genuinely afraid of my father. I don't even remember what the issue was. I just remember going up to the top of my stairs, having had a disagreement with him over something that was very, very important to me, slammed my bedroom door as hard as it would go. I think I broke something.
That'll do it.
And, no, wait. In addition to the slam, I screamed at the top of my young lungs, stupid effing parents. And I thought that was it, and I sat down to sulk on my bed, and then I heard it coming up the stairs. Thump, 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 like the footsteps of someone that has something on their mind. And there was no spanking in my childhood, but there was nothing physical about the encounter I had with my father there. But I just remember he didn't even yell. I think the fact that he didn't lose his cool and raise his voice in the way I expected him to, I think made it scarier. Yeah, but it was this frightening calm where he just looked at me and he was like, "You don't ever talk to us that way." And you know what? Never did again. So obviously it worked. Never did again. I became a lot more quiet and low-key with my rebellion. I just stopped asking for permission at that point. I was like, I'm just going to go do this. Later, Mom. Bye, Dad. And they're like, what? I'll be back before 11. Okay.
So do you think that parenting style worked for you? Would you do that?
I don't know. Well, I know I can never bring myself to hit my kids.
No,
and
I mean,
know
sit them down and, have a stern talking to.
You know what? I think that when you are a parent, there's this expectation that the kid is going to be half you and half the person that you had the kid with. And according to my parents, the thing that F's with that particular plan is that kids come along and they're their own people with their own ideas. And so, I don't think you can make a plan for that with your kids until you meet your kids and kind of figure out what's going to work for them, because there's a surprise in every moment of parenting, from what I understand. So, you know what I will say? I will say that as I look down the road and think about maybe being a parent, consistency, probably the most important thing. Having providing an environment where the kid knows what's up, like being consistent with rules, being consistent with how life works and how life goes, and giving them the security of consistency, even if it's security that comes from knowing I did this, therefore I'm going to be punished, not putting a kid in a place where they have to constantly test boundaries to figure out where they're at. Like when I talk to people that had alcoholic parents growing up, I think a big part of what made them miserable and the damage that they carry around is that their parents were inconsistent. They didn't know if Jekyll or Hyde was coming home. And when their parents were great, they were the greatest people in the world. And when they weren't great, they were either neglectful or hurtful in some sort of way. And it was the inconsistency that seems to have done the most damage to a lot of children of alcoholics that I've talked to. So I think whatever you do, you kind of got to do your business, do your best to stick to it, is my guess. But I haven't had a kid. Hashtag not a doctor. I don't know. What do you think?
You're not counting your chickens?
Not counting my chickens before they are hatched. What about you? What form of discipline was inflicted upon you?
Well, I planted all these trees in my backyard so that I could just say, go get the switch. But I don't think that's going to work in 2000.
Did you ever have to cut yourself a switch?
I was threatened once with going out and getting my own. I said, I'm sorry, I won't do that.
I know this one. I know one person. She has a kid that is just grown up to be the coolest little guy. I think he's like 12 or 13, and he is polite. He is gracious. He is everything that you would want a young man to be. And I was like, so how'd you do that? Did you spank him? And she was like, once and only once. He was acting up like you wouldn't believe in a store, and I took him to the bathroom and I beat his ass. And I was like, really? And she was like, one time in his entire life, and I've never had to do it again. Now, the idea of hitting my kid to me is just foreign and alien. I don't think I could bring myself to do it. Call me soft, call me whatever I am before I'm even a parent, but it just doesn't seem like a thing that I would do. However, you can't argue with the results. This kid is absolute gold, and he got one spanking in his life, and reacted to it in a very positive way. And the kid was there when she was talking about it. He was like, "Oh yeah, I never messed up after that ever again, ever." And I was like, "And you're a really good kid." So I have no judgment because I don't know. I don't think I could bring myself to do that to a child. But you can't argue with the results.
On an upcoming AD on the radio show. How does AD raise his children?
Yeah, that's a long way off.
The future show.
Yes, go on.
A new study shows worldwide emissions of carbon dioxide has leveled out in the past 3 years.
Oh. You mean there's less carbon emissions in the world at the moment? Wow, that's good. It's leveled off, huh? Oh, don't worry. I think Trump plans to make carbon dioxide emissions great again.
Now, more AD on the radio.
Back once again, ill behavior, delivering and giving you a musical savior. Back once again, it's your boy AD, and can't nobody rock a body better than me. Back once again, ill behavior, delivering and giving you a musical savior. Back once again, it's your boy AD.
Speaking of the trials and tribulations of parenting, this has been a real viral win. I don't know if it's going to affect the kid growing up. There's a great video online of a guy working on a project, and his toddler starts talking to him in baby talk, and the dad pretends that they're having an argument. Have you heard this?
I measured it off. Yes, on center. On center. 7.5 inches out. It doesn't matter how far out it is. It's the same on both sides. It's not my fault. It's the same on both sides. Well, it's 4 feet. But the shelf is 4 feet wide. This is the top of the TV. That's the bottom. Right here. 7.5 inches. How many times Listen, I have to cut the boxes in.
So great for web clicks.
Yeah, when I went back east, they all sounded like that.
Great for web clicks. I don't know how that's going to affect the kid as he makes his way in the world, but kind of adorable and hilarious. But it's just a combative way of talking.
He's going to consistently get yelled at for the rest of his life.
Yeah. Well, but here, the dad sounded like the boss. I mean, sorry, the kid sounded like the boss, and he sounded like he was talking back to the boss. That's the vibe I got off of it. Like, the kid was like, "You're doing that wrong," and he was like, "No, I'm not." And I just wonder the long-term effects on that child's psyche, especially when he's known as the as the babbling kid from the video in 15 years' time. Anyways, go on. What else? What else is going on in the news?
McDonald's is testing Sriracha Big Macs in Ohio.
Ohio. Just what McDonald's needed to do. Add something to their menu that's going to make your bowel movements even more explosive. Sriracha to Big Macs. I have started putting a lot of hot sauce on a lot of different stuff. Like that wing sauce thing, the Frank's Red Hot, who don't give us any money, but Frank's Red Hot wing sauce is absolutely delicious. And I'm like, hey, I like it. Let's see what else I like it on. Oh, I like it on pretty much everything. You mix some of that with ranch dressing and get spicy ranch dressing. It is good. That's good. There. Yep, that's what I think. Go on.
A guy set a Guinness World Record for collecting fossilized feces.
What?
By gathering 1,200 pieces of prehistoric poop.
By the way,
got himself a collection.
Fossilized feces is also the name of the band Funkhouser and I are forming as a side project to this show.
Opening for Foghat this Thursday. Fossilized feces.
Go on.
Prince Harry will meet Rihanna in Barbados.
Harry's just a funny name. Hi, I'm Harry.
It sounds like a Mad Lib, like people filled in words. Blank will meet blank in blank during his blank later.
Well, what's the full story?
Prince Harry will meet Rihanna in Barbados during his Caribbean tour later this month.
Yeah, got a lot of questions for her. Mostly because he's still confused by her song that goes like what's that song called?
For many reasons. He's like, what exactly is work?
Oh, is that? So I heard there was a Rihanna work. That's what she's saying.
Work.
I never knew for like the longest. Wow.
When are you gonna learn? Learn. Work. Learn.
She's going burr 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 burr, and that's actually work. Is that what that is?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, you learn something new every single day. What else? What else, Funkhouser?
Don't learn that. Just ignore. Forget the last 20 seconds. Lindsay Lohan has been added as a witness in an assault case.
Oh, I wonder if she has. Decided which accent she's going to be testifying in yet. Have you heard Lindsay Lohan's new accent?
Sort of. I just saw her go viral this past week yelling at her assistant. That's pretty good.
Was she yelling in the accent?
I think. What accent is it? What is it supposed to be?
She
just
sounded
Google,
like a... Google Lindsay Lohan's accent. And see what comes up.
Okay.
Bearing in mind that I believe Lindsay Lohan is from Long Island. I believe she's from New York. And I spent a significant amount of time in Long Island. Made 2 albums there.
Is that a thing? Like people just changing their accents and then trying to change their persona? Is that a thing?
Well, so are you still finding the video?
Yeah, I see it. Do you want to hear it?
Okay, so to just be totally crystal clear on this, like if you'd spoken to me when I was like 16, 17, 18 years old, I would have sounded different to how I do now. I was living in England most of the time. And like it was only when I started in radio that I fully dropped the English accent. And I never had a full English accent because I went to an American school while I was growing up in England. And
can you ever bring it back? Can you say this in that accent?
Yeah, sometimes. I mean, like it's funny though. We were just talking about the time I spent living in New York, and did you hear what I said? I was like, yeah, like which is a complete Long Island thing. But like when I first started in radio, my first boss was like, you kind of have this Anglo-American thing going on, and people might think you're Canadian, and well, we can't have that. So pick an accent and stick to it. And I was always more American than I was English, so it was easier to do that than go full English. But I do notice that when I write letters to my English friends, I'll do it in an English accent. I'll start using English sort of like vernacular and expressions. And when I'm around them, there's things that I will say that I'll say in an English accent because they're expressions, I guess, colloquialisms that don't make a whole lot of sense if you say them in an American accent. The classic example that we refer back to over and over again on this show is if you see a woman that is generously endowed and you want to remark upon that, saying, stone me, look at the jubblies on that in an American accent doesn't make nearly as much sense as stone me, look at the jubblies on that. Lindsay Lohan's made-up accent when we return. Because, we tackle the big and important issues on this show.
Real 104.1 Radio 104.1.
There's something happening here, and you should know what it is. The Dumbing Up of America. Now, more AD on the radio.
Do you have Lindsay Lohan's new inexplicable accent lined up, ready to go, Funkhouser?
Oh, no, I bailed on that, but I'll go back, sure. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Is it the Perez Hilton video?
Nah, I don't know. I think there's a couple of them making the rounds. And it is quite incredible, bearing in mind that she grew up in Long Island, and she is from America. And I understand she's traveled internationally significantly over the last several years. And
Whoa, hold on.
Whoa, man,
Whoa. Okay, here it is.
But his mother became a very close person to me, and his sister as well, and his father. And Aguilos, another partner of ours, and my friend Manos have really incorporated me.
Lindsay Lohan has a super weird new accent, and...
Well, you say it better, but I sort of get it.
Well, and you know what? And there were some Middle Eastern kids that I went to school with as well, and I think I ran into a lot more Middle Eastern people when I was living in London than I have since moving to America. And like there is sort of like that. I guess that's the best way I would describe that. Like one of my best friends going to high school was Turkish, and that was sort of her accent. I don't know. Don't know how Lindsay Lohan picked it up. Maybe she's just a sponge and she absorbs things around her. Or maybe she's just willing herself to be from a different place because she finds it so intensely unpleasant being in America because she's the punchline to a lot of jokes. I don't know. I do know this, though. We should finish up what remains of the news before we talk about the fact that the Cosby Show is coming back.
What? Well, Tay-Tay's in the news. Taylor Swift is reportedly doing an album with a hip-hop feel.
Taylor Swift is doing a hip-hop album?
Yes.
I wonder if to promote it, she's going to kill all her exes in drive-by shootings. Go on.
Family Guy is going to start fleshing out characters and adding fresher plots.
Really? I guess they'll figure it out as soon as they see how The Simpsons do it, and then just, anyways, continue.
Jackie Chan received a special Lifetime Achievement Oscar.
Ah, good for him. Good for him. I would imagine the Academy decided to give Chan the award after carefully perusing his many lasting contributions to the world of cinema and completely ignoring Rush Hour 3. Not a good movie. Go on.
Chad Kroeger from Nickelback turns 42 today.
You know, it's so funny because I likened...
Uh-oh. Yeah, see what happens when you use that word next to that word?
Yeah, it's just... It's like my immune system got hit just by uttering their name. Chad Kroeger from Nickelback. I liken Nickelback to Trump in this election. Nickelback, Trump, and pumpkin spice lattes. You know what they all have in common? If you admit to liking them, you are the butt of a joke. You're the punchline to a joke. And here's the thing. Nickelback, I cannot find, especially in our little sort of snobby musical community, I cannot find a single person that will say, you know who I really like? Nickelback. You know which concert I'm going to? Nickelback. You know which album I just bought? Nickelback. Yet, every single arena, packed. Every single album, platinum. Every single t-shirt sold the hell out. Yet you never see anyone wearing any of them. And it's one of those things where people have been made to feel bad for liking something that they like. Or believing in something that they believe in. And, yeah. Nickelback is Donald Trump. And pumpkin spice lattes. Nobody wants to admit, but somebody voted. Somebody's buying the delicious coffee drinks, and someone bought the album. Someone bought what was it called? Silver Side Up or something. You know how Nickelback got their name?
Speaking I'll turn my headphones down and you can tell the world.
Speaking of pumpkin spice, Chad Kroeger was like a coffee slinger. He was a barista. I don't know if it was a Starbucks or not, but
did he work at Kroger's?
When he was giving people their change, he was like, here's your Nickelback. And he was
really?
Like, oh, wow, that's a true story. Apparently, or that's the story that Nickelback are going with. Maybe they wanted to appeal to the rootsy sensibilities of the hardworking man. But Chad Kroeger was apparently a barista once, and when he was giving people change, he would go, here's your Nickelback. And you can't have a band called Quarterback because, people go online, look for it, and find football stuff. But, yeah, happy 42nd birthday to Chad Kroeger from Nickelback. His friends wanted to surprise him for his birthday, so they went out and they found someone who actually admits to liking the music. Go on.
ABBA announced plans to do a virtual and live experience.
Yeah, untold bazillions of dollars being offered for an ABBA reunion. Like Led Zeppelin money. People don't realize it, but ABBA are like the biggest thing in the world when they were out. And the only downside to this, the only flaw in their plan, the only fly in their ointment, if you will, is that they're going to do this virtual and live concert experience, this ABBA reunion, essentially. Unfortunately, because it's going to take a while to plan and plot out and construct and build because it's supposed to be very high-tech, it's 2 years away. And by then, most of their fans will be dead. Go on.
Oh. Hold on, I lost my place in that there.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Kendall Jenner deleted her Instagram account. No.
If this news makes you sad, congratulations on not having much of a life. How much time do we have left?
Like 8 minutes.
How much time do we have? 8 minutes. All right, we can do some more news.
Blair bassist Alex James hasn't washed his hair in 10 years.
Big deal. Dr. Phil hasn't washed his in 20.
His is in a drawer.
What's the longest you've ever gone without washing your hair, Funkhouser?
Like 4 days, and I can't do it. I'm itching.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Itching and scratching.
So when I was a teenager, somebody told me, a buddy of mine with dreadlocks, I was like, do you wash your dreads? Like, no, don't. I was like, how come you don't stink to high freaking heaven then? And they're like, if you leave your hair a certain amount of time without washing it, it starts cleaning itself naturally. There's oils that come out from your scalp and do nice things for your hair. And
that's what people with lice say.
Well, me being the slacker kid in the band that I was like, ooh, I have no routine, I have no home, I have no responsibility. I just sort of sleep on this tour bus all day long, and I'd really like to cut some of that out of my day. So I was like, you mean I could not wash my hair? And I went maybe a year and a half without washing my hair. And there is some truth to it. There is some truth to it, because I went like a year and a half without washing my hair. And for 10 days, it was disgusting. And I was almost ready to wash it. And my friend was like, no, man, it's on the 18th day that it starts feeling good again. And cut my legs and call me shorty if that didn't wind up happening. And I remember I told my friends about this experiment. They're like, yeah, that's a really bad and disgusting idea. You're subhuman. Wash your hair, you freak. And eventually they were like, hey, you washed your hair. I'm glad to see you finally caved and joined the human race. I was like, no, I actually didn't. And they're like, well. So it turned out to be true. Disgusting how you put yourself through that to find it out. But I was like, yeah, you don't have to wash your hair anymore either. And they're like, we're going to continue washing our hair like the human beings that we are. You do interesting stuff when you're a kid and you don't have anything to really occupy your thoughts. And that was mine. So Blur bass player Alex James hasn't washed his hair in 10 years. Hold on, let's Google a picture of him and see what that looks like.
I can tell you what it smells like. I guess you can tell us what it smells like.
I'm looking at him now. Doesn't.
Well, they're not going to let him go outside looking all nappy.
Well, I don't think you have a choice. If you haven't washed your hair in 20 years, the nap doesn't go away.
Do you get like dreadlocks and stuff at that point?
No, you got to just keep combing your hair, And you would rinse it. You would get on when you were in the shower. It's going to get wet, but you wouldn't wash it. You would let the natural oils in the water do their work, man. Just FYI, I wash my hair frequently now. It's a good adult thing to do. And the guy from Blur is like 50 years old, I think, at this stage in the game. So who knows? Which means if he's like in his 50s, which I'm guessing he is, that means like right around the time he was 40. Like, I understand the experiment when you're a teenager and you got nothing better to do. But when he's like 40, he's like, you know what? I'm going to stop washing my hair and see what happens. It's very, very odd place to arrive in. Go on.
Rock and roll right there. There are crisis hotlines helping people deal with the election results.
1-800, grow the hell up. All right. If you're feeling traumatized by the election, let me walk that one back a little bit. I do not think that you are not entitled to feel nervous, worried, concerned, all of the above. There's a giant question mark that hangs over the country and the fate of the world thanks to our election. And I get it. I get that. We live in uncertain times. And like I said, the terrain that we have to navigate just got that much more choppy and unpredictable. So it's understandable. However, man, if you didn't hear it yesterday, you can go back and listen to the podcast if you didn't catch it on the radio. We had this guy, Spike Feresten, on the show. Spike Feresten is a writer, a TV guy, a producer, a host, a comedian. And Spike Feresten gave us these huge magical moments that seeped into the public consciousness through his work with the television show Seinfeld. He wrote the episode The Soup Nazi. He wrote the little kicks where Elaine has the dance, the full-body dry heave set to music. No soup for you. Without this guy and without his experience of shopping for soup in New York, that wouldn't exist. He created some incredible, magical moments and is unbelievably successful and had no connections, had no idea how he was going to do it, was a music school dropout. So how did a music school dropout go from being a music school dropout, tending bar to get by and wondering what the next move he was going to make with his life was? He wanted to work for David Letterman. And one day into the bar he was tending into the bar in which he tended, he was bartending and someone with a David Letterman jacket walked in. He was like, hey, do you work for David Letterman? And they're like, no, but my ex does. And he was like, can you get me an internship? And she was like, sure. That guy's still in love with me. He'll do whatever I ask. That's how he got his break into television. He didn't know what he was going to do, but he knew what he wanted to do. And he saw a little hint. He saw a little hint of an idea that maybe he could go do this. And he noticed the door had just been opened a crack by life. And he threw it wide open and went in. And he went and worked for David Letterman for free. And he went and worked for Saturday Night Live for free. And he just kind of weaseled his way into a real job. And then, without a plan, he moved from New York to Los Angeles. Didn't know what he was going to do, but knew that he wanted to not live in New York anymore. Knew he wanted to have a yard and a house and a dog. And that's really hard to have in New York City. And wound up getting staffed as a writer on Seinfeld. Now, I thought it was so useful to hear this guy's story, and please, he tells it so much better, and he's hilarious and awesome and engaging and inspiring. Please listen to the podcast if you didn't hear it on the air yesterday. But there's a tremendous lesson for all of us in that right here and right now, in that who was president at the time really didn't figure into his plans. Social programs. that were available to a young, plucky college student trying to make their way in the world didn't factor into his plans. He saw something he wanted, and he went after it. And look, I'm not trying to take anything away from the validity of your feelings if you're feeling nervous about the next 4 years. I just want to make it clear over and over again that we, all of us, have the power to take our own lives in our own hands and affect real change. Not only for us, but for the people around us. We're going to be talking about a lot in the next 4 years. So thank you for getting it in your head now, and thank you for hanging out.
Turn the other cheek and give people the benefit of the doubt even when they don't deserve it.